for the first time, someone really has to explain that to you because it doesn't translate very well between languages. And someone also has to give you some context. Why is this story important? Why does it matter to the people who are reading this? How does this fit into history that we've got before? For someone to do this for you, this person needs to understand two things. They need to understand Nigeria pretty well, and they need to understand you pretty well. They need to have their feet in different cultures. And we call these people bridge figures. This is sort of what we've been doing at Global Voices. We have a whole family of people who are multicultural. One of my favorite of these people is sitting in the front row here, who is a Dutch citizen of Tunisian origin who's lived in Iran, as well as about half a dozen other countries. And Sammy can explain to you, both as a Tunisian and as a Dutchman, what's going on in Tunisia. And he can do it in language and in terms that make it much more likely that you're going to connect with it than if I tried to do it, because he's got those feet in those different cultures. What we do at Global Voices is exactly that process of filtering, translating, and contextualizing. And we do it through these people who've got their feet in both cultures, through these bridge figures. So what it means is that when we're trying to report on what just happened in Cairo with a mudslide that ended up damaging people, we're able to give you the perspective of Egyptian bloggers, but we're able to translate it from Arabic into English. We're able to provide enough filtering so that you're getting the stories that are most likely to be interesting, and we're trying to contextualize it in a way that you can understand and you can connect with it. So this requires a lot of people who are living with feet in different countries. And these people sometimes will tell you things that would really surprise you. This guy is one of my very favorite bridge figures. This is a guy named Ahmed Al-Orman, and he's a pharmacy student in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And I got to know this kid because I saw my name on his blog about 4 years ago. And he said, I just read this interesting piece in this Egyptian newspaper about this guy, Ethan Zuckerman. Sounds like an interesting guy. And he linked to the piece, which was this very, very long piece in Arabic. And I wrote to him and I said, I don't read Arabic. There's no good online Arabic-English translation software. What's this piece? What happened? You know, are they saying that I'm never going to be allowed in Egypt again, or are they saying nice things about me? And he was nice enough to translate the whole story, a 4,000-word story, and sent it back to me. And it turned out someone had interviewed me, and I'd forgotten about it, and they'd written the story, but we became friends. And I've been reading his blog for 4 years now, and he's taught me something that I hadn't realized, which is some of the most passionate feminists in Saudi Arabia are unmarried men. And the reason for this is that if you're in Saudi Arabia and you're an unmarried man, it really sucks because you can't get into spaces a good chunk of the time. They're only open for family time, which means married men, women, children. But as an unmarried guy, you can't get in there. And so that sort of gender segregation makes young unmarried men very, very aware of the gender divide in Saudi Arabia. So here's this, what is he now, 24? I mean, this is a young kid. But he's writing all the time about women's right to drive. And this is a perspective that I never would have gotten from Saudi Arabia because I don't read Arabic. But also, this is a guy who spends a lot of his time working with the technical community, working with the blog community. He understands my world well enough that he's able to connect with me. And some people are very conscious about this. This is probably Bahrain's most prominent and most famous blogger, Mahmoud Al-Yusuf. And in his sort of mission statement, when he started his blog years ago, he said, now I try to dispel the image that Muslims and Arabs suffer from, mostly by our own doing, I have to say, in the rest of the world. I am no missionary and don't want to be. I run several websites that are geared to do just that, create a better understanding that we're not all hell-bent on world destruction. Mahmoud is doing this work because he wants people to understand Bahrain, and he wants people to understand Muslims, and he wants people to understand them in a way that he thinks is much more accurate than the perspective that they're getting out of mainstream media. So he's doing the work of writing about his country in English. If he were just writing for his neighbors and his countrymen, he'd be writing in Arabic. But he's writing for me. He's not just writing for them. He's writing as a way to build a bridge. So what I want to suggest to anyone who's thinking about this and thinking about how to work in this space, think about how you get people to stumble upon not just random information, but information that they need to know and that they don't know that they need to know. Think about how you're going to engineer serendipity. In your own work, and as you read, try to figure out ways to fight against homophily. If you're only hearing the same stuff from the same people all the time, it's making you dumber than you could be. Not to suggest that any of you are dumb, but that we could all be smarter in one fashion or another. And finally, find ways to build bridges. Some of these conversations are only possible if people from very, very different cultures find a way to talk to one another. This is Dowdy Were, who's one of Kenya's best bloggers, and this is Xiao Chang, who is one of China's best bloggers. And these guys are in regular touch because a huge issue in the world right now is what's China's involvement in Africa going to be like. And these guys are some of the guys who are sort of starting this dialogue and starting this conversation. These people, these folks who are willing to build bridges between cultures, I think are going to be very powerful and very important as we go forward in this world, and I'd love to see more of them. So thanks for listening to me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk.